Absolute chaos of a football match. Absolute chaos. I want to talk. I was ready to talk. I had loads of notes to talk about Solanke and how he destroyed Man United and also the problems that Man United are struggling with as well. But we have to talk about the goalkeeper situation. And we have to talk about the fact that Tottenham's bottoms fell out. They absolutely fell out in this one. The important one, if you're a Spurs fan, look, you got through. But I think the sort of the wider concerns that we will see down the road is just that philosophy and that lack of acceptance of game state. Because when we look at this, look at that momentum bar. The truth of the game and what we pretty much had, and that is one picture that we can talk about. Because I think there's something here that's all the great things about Tottenham. But then what happened afterwards, this last 20 minutes is unnecessary. It's unnecessary. And I wrote, when in the mood. This is one of my notes, when in the mood. That's the when in the mood bit. So we did a video on the Premier League this week, and we were able to have the running stats. And the running stats for Tottenham are phenomenal. The way they work as a team, the way they hound as a team. We can talk about the goals as well. And that will kind of illustrate that for sure. It comes down to the way that Ant wants to play. And so at home, in a cup game, when you're feeling it and the energy's right, when they've got that all together and they're playing on the front foot, mentally, that has them at their best. And I thought, okay, Man United had a couple of moments, and someone will throw in the comments to me the XG, but if we look at the XG, 0.99 of a goal came twice for them when it comes to XG from those two Fraser Forster mistakes. But up until this point, it was great. But then in this moment here, the bums fell out. And the initial goal can happen. The second one can't happen. And what's a problem here is because I'm not sure there's always that acceptance of game state. And I'll be fascinated to see. And I guess Ange Postecoglou's spoken about this. He's spoken about how it's about giving the goalkeeper a chance to set up. When Vicario got injured, and do they need to get a goalkeeper in January? I know it's only for a month or so, but obviously the season on a bit of a knife edge in terms of the league position at the moment, and Fraser Forster behaving like that, struggling like that, do you need to go and get yourself a goalkeeper in January? Because Vicario is going to be out till March. But Postecoglou said that it's about the setup. It's about being set up in the right way. And he lauded Joe Hart in terms of Joe Hart being able to see that actually it's not that scary to play out from the back. He said the only way you would go away from that is if the goalkeeper feels uncomfortable. But Fraser Forster, he said, is totally embracing the challenge, and he's been playing this way in training for 18 months. But we saw when the game state is in a place where the momentum has changed, another note I wrote down, they gave away momentum. And I think when you've run as hard as this Tottenham team do, and you've expended that energy, when you then give away momentum, you then put yourself in a really difficult situation because you have to go again. You have to sort of put your foot down on the gas again to sort of get it back together. And that confidence and positive and what's next attitude, thinking about the next thing, is much easier in theory than it is in this period of a game for me. And so the bigger problem I have, it's not the playing it short. And let me show you this. This will blow your mind. First of all, just to show that the difference of what happened in that last 20 minutes. So here is the advanced goalkeeping metrics on FBref. Fraser Forster, as you can see. And if we zoom in, if you look at launch, where are we? So here, right here, and I'll zoom across for you. So first of all, in terms of the passes that he's making, he's not launching a lot of his passes. And launch is clearing the ball over 40 yards. So sometimes it's happening. So he attempted it 11 times. But in terms of passing the ball, 89 times, he's playing it short. The glaring one here is this. Look at the goal kicks. In terms of a launched goal kick, 0%. Okay, now let's go here. So these are the last 3 games. So let's see Fraser Forster in these last 3 games, and in the last 2 games, the Southampton game and the Chelsea game. So 2 very different games in terms of long balls. There was 4 in the first game. Of course you've refreshed there. Of course you've refreshed there. Of course you've done that to me. Of course you've done that to me, SofaScore. The point I was going to make was, in the Southampton game, he made 4 long passes. Probably because he was under extreme pressure in a moment with someone on him, and he knocked it clear 4 times. But generally does want to do it if he doesn't have to. 4 times in the Chelsea game. 4 times in the Southampton game. 17 times. 17 times in that game that we just saw. So he aborted the mission. They aborted the mission. So I'm kind of being slightly hypocritical here because they didn't accept a game state. He then lost his way wholeheartedly, which I'm sure he'll admit to as well. And then he had to accept game state. He had to do it himself. But that is obviously a very dangerous road to go down when you've got someone like Ange who believes in what he believes in as much as he believes in it. And I like 85, 90% love it. I do. But I just think in a cup game at home, when the energy's like that and you're a bit tired and you're bare bones and you've got all these players working so hard for the team, just give yourself a break. And the thing that I'm annoyed about more, or I would be annoyed about if I was a Tottenham fan, is actually a lot of the time, you've got Dragusin dropping deep, Gray dropping deep, and those moments happen, right? Prior to that, there's a few moments where the momentum was starting to shift because it's this pass I can't stand. Like, when it's right, fine. But often there was sort of a pressure being put on you when it was like, actually, Joe, I'm just going to hold on to it for a second. We're going to get set, and then we're going to play. Because he's not comfortable. He wasn't comfortable. And I think once you're 3-0 up, don't give away momentum like that. It's not being negative. I don't know. Thing is, that leads to probably more goals and things like that. But there were a lot of positives for Tottenham. When it comes to Man United, let's touch on them for a second. I thought, look, this isn't your best team. And I think at times there are players here who I feel are kind of up to the level. And it feels like they're sort of 2-3 steps ahead of the rest of the group. I would say Mazraoui is. I would say Ugarte overall is, certainly defensively. I would say Fernandes is, for sure. I think Yoro was going to get up to speed really, really quickly. I thought Martinez had an absolute stinker for the 3rd goal, but in possession, absolutely. But then the other part, and every part is crucial, in terms of linking it together, I think it's absolutely not there. And in terms of, say, someone like Eriksen, I think he's not as press-proof as he once was. I think Anthony is a passenger at this stage. And you saw the difference once Diallo came on, the difference in terms of driving into those areas, actually wanting the ball. There's specks of quick feet from Anthony. Højlund's got to be more switched on because actually there were some good moments because there's a lot of times when Bruno Fernandes was able to sort of get into this channel here and then he would look to play passes to Højlund. Højlund has to know that Højlund, if he can't score goals in this team, then it's not good enough. This team is the way he's going to play. Amorim is absolutely wholeheartedly should work for him, and he should score goals, and he has started scoring goals. But I would say, in a couple of occasions, that first half, there was moments where Bruno Fernandes, who he works so bloody hard. This lad, he was putting in some really nice crosses, I thought at times, and Højlund's got to gamble. He's got to know that Bruno Fernandes is going to get that ball to him. Because everything is geared towards getting chances for Højlund and him to be facing the goal and not have his back to goal. And so when he's working, and I do think there's a lot about pairs in this, a lot about pairs in football generally, but in terms of this Man United team, these sort of those pairs are crucial. these pairs can be really important as well. That as a pair can be really crucial in terms of progressing the ball. All the time there's these little pairs that have got to kind of work and flourish, and that is certainly a pair that they want to. And I think he needed to be a bit more switched on today. I think he'd be disappointed that he didn't get a bit more from it, because I think Bruno Fernandes was looking for him, and he needs to know that that's happening. Fernandes was getting a lot of kind of joy, and it was true that it was because Porro was kind of pushing up or pushing in, but it was also down to the fact that Archie Gray was kind of playing quite safe, and the fact that Archie Gray doesn't really want to. The fact that he's even playing centre back and you've got yourself a win is actually an achievement in itself. But what was happening a lot was Dragusin was actually coming across to deal with Højlund, and then that therefore left this space, and Sarr was there to supposedly track him, but wasn't always kind of doing those hard yards, because sometimes Basuma was pushing on. What I did want to talk about at one point was like the good bits for Man United, but also it's probably the biggest weakness I felt for Man United, and I feel like there are some sort of dead ends establishing themselves here. And I think with Antony playing here and Bruno Fernandes being the kind of only real sort of 10 that you want to just give the ball to, this is something that Tottenham, I felt, capitalised on, because there was often this desire to play the ball to Mazraoui, and there therefore was then this triangle here. But then once Mazraoui would get the ball, it was a bit of a dead end. Antony was sort of half wanting it, not really wanting it. But the other reason why it was, and therefore this sort of long ball into Bruno Fernandes sometimes was working, but certainly this ball wasn't on, although Højlund occasionally kind of made that run, but not too often, maybe not often enough. And also, you don't really want to play too long ball. But what Tottenham did really, really well, and Solanke did brilliantly. Now, the first goal, you'll see him just look alive, pushes off those two defenders. I thought that was really, really clever in terms of his play. There's little things that you don't naturally see on the first tape, but you will on the second. The second goal explains why there was, throughout the game, this space for Bruno Fernandes in this area here. It was because of this. It was because when Yoro, I think the second goal comes from exactly this. Heung-min Son was pushing on him. Basuma was actually going with Eriksen. Maddison was keeping an eye on Mazraoui at this moment. Jed Spence was sort of waiting here. Antony was pissing about somewhere. And Archie Gray was kind of working up here. Obviously, they always like to have a high line as well. And so Bruno Fernandes has that time. Actually, I think Maddison was here with Ugarte. So that's why Sarr was dealing with sort of Fernandes and stepping in here. But what was really good and crucial was actually Maddison was here. It was Kulusevski making his way over here. Sorry, forgive me. But Solanke's hard work for the second goal, if you go back and watch it, Yoro knows he can't play the ball back. And so this long pass gets made because he's just kind of run out of ideas because the press is so great. And Spence gets the ball back from that. And Kulusevski's already over here. And so Kulusevski can then be a part of it. And there can be this overload, which there was regularly with Kulusevski coming over, Solanke, Heung-min Son, and all the rest. And so Basuma was vacating it a lot of the time, but it was to put that pressure on Eriksen to keep them in this corner, because Man United at the moment, they look to Mazraoui all the time, because as I said before, he's one of the few players that is up to speed, but he kind of needs a Diallo instead of an Antony, or he needs a Bruno Fernandes there to help him out, to get out of it. And the progression for Man United is still a problem, in my opinion. If we just go to the game here, I think I can show you from the average positions from the game. I think it would be a good way of showing it, because it's just flat. It's just a little bit flat. And what I mean by that is that the progression isn't there. If you look at the two teams, if you put Maddison and Kulusevski in those two sort of 10 positions for them, they would just be, Man United would just be leaps and bounds better, because the progression for them is just not there yet. And I think it will come, but it's the personnel that's the biggest problem in that situation. Here we go. So there you go. You can see it. Just really, really flat. Whereas opposed to Tottenham, progression. That screams progression to me. I bet, who's this? Kulusevski. Kulusevski 7? Oh, it's Heung-min Son, sorry. So, but Kulusevski, if we go and find him, what number is he? 21. I mean, look, touching the ball everywhere. And despite playing supposedly right wing, he's coming over to this left-hand side. He is phenomenal. I got a bit of heat today on Twitter saying he's the player of the season so far for me. He absolutely is for me. The work rate, the skill, the ability in tight spaces, the work rate for the team, the availability for the team. He is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I can't stress it enough. But Solanke deserves huge credit as well. And then you think of the third goal as well. Where is he? Is he here holding up? Yeah. For the third goal as well, it's a great little move. Martinez, this is one of the things I want to ask you guys, Martinez, for Man United fans. In that moment, okay, you've got your line wrong for the third goal. And that happens, okay? That's okay to a point, right? It's disappointing, obviously, because you could see the line when you're that side of it. But once that ball gets made through and Solanke's kind of there and shapes him up, the fact that he was able to square him up so easily and get that yard so easily, that red flag's maybe a bit too far, but certainly an alarm bell. And that's a shame, because Martinez, from a technical standpoint, is a crucial player for Man United. Absolutely crucial, because the way he progresses the ball is really, really good. He's really confident in just drilling it forward. And I thought Yoro was really good at doing it as well, actually. That's not Yoro, is it? Sung-Min Son. Yoro looked really, really good, I think, as well. He's only going to get better and better. And this isn't your best Man United team, I guess. So that's fair enough. He's kind of looking to rotate and be careful with it and give Anthony a chance. I don't think Anthony deserves any more chances, personally. I think there could have been a better route there. Obviously, the whole Rashford thing's happening, so what can you do? But in terms of these two centre-backs and how they're going to get at you, in terms of going forward, that's one thing. Yoro, I'm okay if that ball's in over behind. But Martinez, on that occasion, for Solanke to get that kind of space, once that ball's kind of over the top, it felt really easy. Really, really easy. So a bit of a red flag there. Then Tottenham just give it away, don't they, in terms of the goals after that? Like, I can't give Man United too much credit in terms of the goals, because it's silliness. It's nonsense. And it's not, it's disappointing, because it takes such a shine off what is a really difficult win in a big game against a big club on a big night, when you're sort of what feels like, certainly from a defensive point of view, absolutely bare bones. Big question here is, what do you do with Fraser Forster? For Yinder as well, like in terms of that last goal, that's pretty embarrassing. And it was his fault to a point with the first one, although it was a sort of strong shot. I find myself very confused. I think for Man United, it's a personnel situation here. For a Tottenham situation, it's going to win you games and it's going to cost you games. Is it going to get you where you need to be? I'm still not totally decided on it. I get where he's trying to go with it, but that could have gone so wrong today. And instead of trying to break down these walls of what Spursy is, you may be building up more. You're creating, Gary Neville's saying that's the most Tottenham thing I've ever seen. It feels like it's on a bit of a knife edge, isn't it? Just sort of like manage the game a little bit better. Once you've kind of shown that energy, save a little bit of energy. Let me know how you're feeling. I'm confused. By the way, we did a video on Rasmus Højlund in terms of how he will thrive under Amorim, which I think will still come. So check that out on the proper James Allcott channel, or the James Lawrence Allcott channel. And we did a video on Kulusevski talking about how he's the most unique player in the Premier League. So go check that one out as well. Cheers.